Hello viewers, today we will be looking into Microsoft Windows Labs. When we talk about Windows Labs, this is a built-in solution that is exists to manage your local administrator passwords. So securing the local administrative passwords automatically is a solution that we will be looking into it. For example, you have a local administrator account, that password you no need to remember, it will keep on change automatically, and that password information will be saved into your Active Directory. So that's where we look into the local administrative password solution or a labs. So this password can be saved into your local Active Directory or in Intune. When we say Intune, Intune is used to retrieve, but in the backend it will be used to store in Microsoft Entra identity solution. So for this, definitely you need to have some kind of pre-requirements, like you need to have a licensing. So when we talk about the license, nothing. It's a built-in, as I said earlier, so you don't need to have any additional license, but you need to have your Active Directory or Entra as the license. So from an Entra point of view, it's a free license that you need to have at least, meaning you don't need to have any P1 or P2 premium licensing. It's just the tenant is needed. That's it. And when we talk about the operating systems, it starts from 20H2 with the latest cumulative patches, and even for Windows 11, 21H2 with the cumulative patches it supports. In the past, we used to deploy in a client software, labs, we used to call that as a labs client to all the Windows client devices. Now you don't need to do that. It's built in starting from these two different OS builds. When we talk about the labs architecture, as I said earlier, the built-in, you have all the built-in requirements, but it will store the passwords in your either local Active Directory or in Microsoft Entra ID. So you have two options. You could, configure this with the help of Microsoft Intune. We can say within the Intune policy as, hey, you go ahead and store in Entra or in your local Active Directory. That's what we can define here. And now Intune will here comes into the picture to deploy the policies uh, to save the destination, even the password complexity and the number of days it has to repeat, save the history, how many days the password shouldn't be changed. All of that policies we would be deploying with the help of Microsoft Intune in a couple of minutes. And from an IT admin point of view, what the IT admin is going to do is he would use either Microsoft Intune portal as an Intune admin, or he could reach Microsoft Entra admin console to retrieve the specific managed device password. Let's say once he retrieve the password, if he's sharing with some vendor or someone, assume that, or if he knows that once he retrieved, he have an option to immediately rotate, or he can set a policy within Microsoft Intune within a couple of hours it has to reset. So it's keep on changing the local admin password. That's how the local IT admin can work with the managed device passwords. So that's the high level architecture. I hope I made it easy. So if you think, what about group policies? Let's say if you do not have Microsoft Intune, you could use the local group policies or your Active Directory group policies to manage them. Uh, so since it's a Microsoft Intune course, I'm going to focus more on uh, Microsoft Intune specific policies and configuration. And now when we talk about the high level steps that are going to involve here, we would be looking into a couple of steps, starting with way to enable Microsoft Intra. That there is a step that we need to enable in Microsoft Intra, and later point we would enable the built-in admin account. Let's say on every Windows device, you will have a built-in account. By default, that will be in a disabled state. So you need to enable that account. That's okay if you renamed, but the account should be available, because without that, what do you do with the lab solution, right? So it has to be enabled. What if you have a different account you created by disabling local admin? Still it works, because within the Intune policies, you have an option to uh, input your SID information of that specific account, so that it would consider that to change by default by using the local admin group. Uh, So the password gets automatically changed. Now, when we talk about the Microsoft Intune policies, this is the third step that we are going to deploy it, and later point we would be assigning that lab policies to Windows devices. And then we would be demoing to retrieve the local admin password, and we also do the end of the demo, we also retrieve and rotate the local admin password. So all these steps will be a practical demo step by step. So I would be jumping in a next second as a demo. Configure Windows Labs with Microsoft Intune from here on. So that being said, first, we have to do the steps in Microsoft Entra portal. So click on Identity and from there the devices and the overview, and you have something called Microsoft Labs to be enabled under device settings. So just click on device settings. Let's load. And if you just scroll down a little bit, you have an option called Enable Microsoft Intra Local Administrative Password Solution or Lab Solution. Just save on that. So that's the first step. You might have to verify in your case whether this configuration is properly configured or not. Once the settings are saved, next thing would be you have to verify from your local machine. Let's say you might have multiple Windows devices. So there could be two situations. One is by default, local administrative account might be in a disabled state. So if it is in disabled state, it's not going to work for you, the entire configuration. So you might have to automate even enabling this account and resetting the password. So for that, you might have to create one more Intune policy. So in our case, we will be creating one additional policy to enable this default administrative account. But in your case, if you have already enabled this account or in your environment it is in enabled state, you don't need to deploy this specific configuration. So that being said, let's actually jump into Microsoft Intune portal to see here. You see it is in disabled state, all of that from a local point of view. So I would be showing you here the computer name. As you can see, it starts with USA, and we would configure the entire configuration on the specific test device. So that being said, let's actually focus, as I said earlier, enabling the built-in administrator account using Intune. So here we will enable by creating a Intune policy and a configuration profile. To configure that policy, automated policy, you can go back to devices and click on Windows devices and configuration profiles and click on create a new policy for Windows 10 or later devices in the platform, and select here as a catalog and create. Give a meaningful name here. In my case, I have given as enable built-in administrator account. And also you can give the description, click on next and click on add settings to look at all the catalogs. Since it's a catalog, it has a lot of other settings. So it's better to search. So use this specific key, enable administrator account as a search catalog, and look for that specific setting accounts enable administrator account status. Simply select and close that. So now this is where you can enable disable by toggling the simple radio button. So in my case, I'm enabling, and you could use even scope tags just in case if you have a multiple scope tags, but I'm not going to use. I would be sticking to default scope tags and target the assignments. In this case, I would be targeting to all Redmond devices. You could even use the filters, all of that. You can see that simple one device is available. There's no filters, nothing. And create. This is going to create a policy. Now you can go back to this policy and look at the policy assignment status. So if you see here, the local enable admin enable state, and I synced up from a local point of view, or you could do it directly from here and look at the configuration from a device specific, whether this policy has been assigned or not. I could see that the policy got assigned here and it has thrown an error. So when you get this 6500 error, it means that with even error code called 2, it means that when you're trying to enable the account, it needs to have some kind of a password, right? So the minimum password requirements are not met when you're trying to enable. So the policy is okay to enable the local admin, but the password policy complexity is not configured within this Intune. So I need to end up by creating one more additional policy. So you think, now this is the next level of troubleshooting. So let's go back to devices one more time from the Windows platform, create the configuration profile, this time new policy for Windows 10 or later, and under templates, we would be choosing as a device restriction policies for the password complexity. So click on device restrictions, and we would be now setting up password requirement for Windows devices. So click on next. If you just scroll down a little, you have something called a passwords. And this is where you have to configure even the password requirements. For example, it requires a password and require the password type as alphanumerical and the password complexity numbers and lower cases and the minimum password length as 6. Number of failures, it's going to wipe up maybe let's say 11 attempts. It's going to wipe up the device. And password expiry, let's say maximum as 41 days that you could configure. So let's do that here 41 days, but you could configure for 365 days here also. uh, and these are the couple of other configuration it might require as per your password policy. So I would say stop preventing reusing the password 5 times, and I want to block the simple passwords. Again, scope tags can be configured, and I am gonna assign this time the specific setting to all Redmond devices. Click on next. So that's the same device, and you could even play with your application compatibility, like all Windows 10 devices only should be applied if it is an enterprise, something like that. But we are not going to play on that. We'll simply create it. That's all. Now, to configure this uh, policy, what we have done is we try to enable the local admin password, but we got an error with the policy as it is missing the password complexity requirement. So now we configure the password requirements. So let's have a deep look into the logs. So if I just go to the same test machine, in this case, to Windows logs, and in the application and service logs, Microsoft Windows, and device management logs. These are the Intune logs. You would be looking into it from the admin point of view. And if I just filter with 813 event ID, I should be able to see here the simple maximum minimum password requirements has been configured as per the device restrictions policy configuration, which we have done now. Now I just cleared the filter. Now, if you could, look at enabling the local admin account, this was actually throwing some error in the past. Now, it it should be no success if I just simply wait for a couple of more minutes by syncing up. Now we did sync up, and now if I go back to the events to verify if it is enabled or not, or even I can check directly from the Microsoft MMC, which is computer management. So let me open up computer management by syncing up. So I'll just go to local users. You see here, as soon as I refreshed, it is actually enabled. Just in case if you still have a problem, you can reset the password for the first time, then automatically it gets applied. So you could see here, even if as soon as I refresh here, it is getting the success also for the local admin account status. So that being said, now we are ready to proceed further with the labs policy to be configured directly from Microsoft Intune. So for that, you can simply go to the endpoint security here and click on account protection and try to create a new policy here and select the platform as Windows 10 or later. And you have a built-in policies available called local admin password solution or Windows Labs. This is by default it is available. So all you have to do is you have to toggle some of the settings that are more specific to the Windows Labs. So I would just give the name as hyphen demo just to identify and give a meaningful description. And now these are the settings that you need to configure for your labs. Let's say where do you want to save your backup directory, meaning the password which is going to set automatically. Where do you want to save? Do you want to save it to your local active directory, or you want to save it to your Azure AD? So this is where you could configure. I wanted to configure for Microsoft Azure AD, and the password age you can configure for chatty. So let's say you have already renamed in your company the local admin account. Still, this is going to work for you if you simply have to toggle this and give the account name. Otherwise, in the backend, it would use the default SID of the local account or for the local admin, and based on that, it's gonna deploy lab solution. So in my case, I'm not in a situation to rename the local admin, um, so that's why I'm not going to configure this. Password complexity, you could configure here the more complex. For example, here in the last one, improved readability, it's gonna capital letters, small letters, numbers, and also special characters will be added. And password length as a next step, which you could configure as a 14 password length. Post authentication, what do you want to do it? Let's say you wanna expire the password so that it's gonna reset. And post authentication reset delay, you want to know because for example, if you share the password to someone, you want to keep that for how many hours more? Let's say 24 hours, maybe as a maximum time that you want to keep the same password before it automatically rotates. Or you could do the rotation. I'm going to show you that end of this video. So click on next. Again, here you could use the tags just in case if you are interested to use any of the tags. Default tags is fine. Now, this policy, where do you want to apply? So, in my case, I'm actually working with all Redmond devices. So I'll use this group, which has a one computer for my test case. Click on next to create. So you could see here, these are the settings that I have configured for one device. That's all. All I have to do is two policies. One is account protection category. Other one is from the Microsoft Entra point of view, enabling that solution. And the other two settings that are actually pre-requirements. If you have those, that's fine. Now let's sync up from a client point of view and have a look on it. If it is actually applied, you could find out lab specific settings within this registry key. Under HKLM, software, Microsoft, policies, labs is the uh, registry settings which would apply all these backup directory and the password age, all of that settings will be applied. And same thing you could even find out directly from the event viewer and then go to the application specific event viewer under Microsoft under Windows. You have a lab specific folder. You could even go back there directly to view whether labs has been assigned or not from a operations point of view. Or you could even go to from a Microsoft Intune point of view, select the device that has the specific target and then go to the device configuration and look for the policy which we applied in our case, the lab specific policy under setting get log. So simply open up that and have a look on it. All these, the same registry keys has been successfully created. That's why the policy got success in this case. So it indicates that now this device is ready with the automated password changing capabilities with the help of Labs or Windows Labs. So click on Windows lab specific area. So this is where you could, easily retrieve. For example, if I navigate to all Windows devices and select the device, and now you have a local admin password. So as soon as you click on here, this is where the password should be visible. So in my case, it's still not there because we just have to, refresh it. So as soon as you refresh, you would be getting the passwords. So here, this is a password, built-in password is available. If you have the permission to view local admin password capabilities, so you should be able to see it. And this is with the last password rotation. Information also will be visible. So click on that to see here. So this is always be in hidden mode. You could, simply copy for the security reason. So simply copy and let me paste it. What is the password complexity? So you see here, if I paste it, uh, it starts with O, ending with I, right? So it's a big lengthy password. So I should be able to use on local computer, or I could share that to someone else. Let's also verify how to retrieve if you are the Entra admin. So go back to devices overview from identity management, devices overview, and select the device that you want to retrieve from local administrative password recovery. This is where your labs or registered devices will be shown here. So in my case, only the one device that is available here. Click on that and retrieve the password. Again, if I copy paste here, it's the same password that is showing. Now let's see how to rotate. So when we talk about the rotate, the password was assume that the password was shared with some of local IT admin. Now we wanted to change this password automatically. For that, simply select the device. So from a Intune console, from an overview, you can click on these three dots. You have an option called rotate local admin password. Click on that, and this is gonna change the local admin password on the device automatically without any user interaction. And if you see here to track, this is still pending. In a couple of minutes, this status becomes as completed. You can simply sync or wait for a couple of minutes. So if I waited a couple of minutes, it's completed. And if I try to retrieve one more time, let's see if the same password is coming or different password from a local admin password. The previous one was ending with I, starting with O. So copy and let me paste it here this time. You see here, this is completely changed. That's how it's going to work labs. I hope this